So, welcome all of you to the Master Open Day talk about the Master Youth Studies. So, I hope you're at the right place. It's Youth Studies. I think it's one of the, if not the best master we have in the Netherlands, and I'll explain to you why. And I have brought also a great team with me. Eliane and Arvin, they are current master youth studies master students, so they can share their experience with you. But we also have Michelle and Matthew, and they have obtained their masters already. So they are done, and well, a bit. Michelle already. How long ago? A few years ago. 4 years ago. Okay. And so they will also share their experience with you, especially for the last part of the master, and well, also what they're doing right now. So I hope it helps to give you a little bit of a view on what the master is and also what you can do with it afterwards. So my name is Ina Koning, and I am the master coordinator of youth studies. So let's take a look how I can. So in this master, just very briefly, we examine youth issues from different disciplines and perspectives. So we take into account certain youth issues, and I will go into which issues a little bit later. But we look at these issues from a variety of disciplines. So, for example, in pedagogics, they always have the starting point, the family context as a starting point, because that's what pedagogic is. So the role of parents, that's where they start from. In sociology, they look at the society. In psychology, their starting point is the individual, cognitions, development. That's what they do there. So, and in youth studies, what we do is we look at the issue, and then we see, okay, what perspective is most applicable here to deal with this. And that's also the difference between youth studies and the YES Master, so Youth Education and Society. We take an interdisciplinary approach. So that's really important. At youth studies, we have a certain mission, and I haven't thought of it, but the mission of Roosevelt is really in line with our mission. So we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. So we want to contribute to the development of strong youth, of resilient youth, in order to be prepared for the challenges that they may encounter on their way of growing up. So that's what we do. The question is, how can we understand youth in a changing world? So what we always do is we take into account also youth issues, topics that are relevant right now. So climate change would be one of the issues we may look at. How do youth deal with that? How do they perceive these all the changes that are going on right now? How do they deal with that? But also digitalization, digital media use. It's a relatively new topic, and that's also one of the topics that we're looking at youth studies. So we're looking at when it goes wrong, so risk behavior, and you may think of substance use, problematic substance use, early substance use, but also delinquency, problematic digital media use, but also extremes like loneliness. And we also look at peer influence, and then the risky part of that, and social inequality also. So how does social inequality contribute to the development of risk behavior? But Just as important is to look at the other side of the coin. So, when and how does it go well? So, not just look at the problematic aspects of these behaviors, but also, for example, for the peer influence, not just the risk factors and the negative influence of peers, but also the role of friendships and peer support, and also pro social behaviors, social equality, hope, for example, trusts of youth in the future. So these two sides of the coin we take into account in our master. Some practical characteristics. It's a full-time master. It's a master taught in English, and it's a one-year master. Okay, the major topics. So these are just examples, the major topics, and there are people doing research also and educate you on other topics as well. But most of these topics relate to mental health in adolescence. So life satisfaction, anxiety, loneliness, happiness. So how do youth feel? How are they doing? The second one is substance use and risk behaviors. So it can vary from alcohol use to drug use, and perhaps Michelle can also talk a little bit about that later. There are many different drugs on the market right now, and she knows all about that. Youth culture, and we refer to digital media use, gaming, the role of music in adolescents' lives, but also sexual behaviors. And for each of these major topics, we look at social inequalities, so level of education, the role of level of education, migration status, ethnicity, family affluence, the neighborhood where you grow up, if that makes a difference or not. So how does the development of risk behaviors, for example, differ based on the level of education or migration status? It is also, for all of the major topics, we do not look at that in just the individual development of these, but we place them into the different social contexts. So the social context, for example, of the family and friends, but also the larger context of the neighborhood or school or the whole society. So we also have, for example, European studies going on. So we can compare the Netherlands to different other countries. So many different contexts. And let's see. We also, and that's also one of my areas where I'm doing research on, is I do want to understand youth behavior. So who does what and why, in order to be able to develop also interventions. So to make these youth resilient and to prevent specific groups to get into trouble and to be involved in risk behavior. So how to lower the chance that specific groups of youth end up with being involved in delinquent behaviors, for example. So these behavioral interventions, I feel, is really important, and they can be targeted. Also, many different disciplines will be included, so not just target the youth themselves, but also their parents or the society. So I'm conducting several community-based studies, for example, where many different stakeholders in the community contribute to youth well-being. As I said, we have a study going on that is a European study, and 10,000 of kids are included. We collaborate with the Trimbos Institute in conducting this study, and this study is being conducted every 4 years. And in that way, we can see it trends over time, changes over time. So, for example, many years ago, we saw that the Dutch youth were let me think. How can I? Yeah. So were the youngest drinkers. So the age of onset of alcohol use was lower in the Netherlands compared to other countries. It was, I can tell you, it was 12.4 years was the average age of onset. Well, since then, many things have changed, and the age of onset has increased. And by having these studies that are conducted every 4 years, you can nicely see how it changes, and also so how policy changes impact alcohol use. All right. Just a question for you, if you could provide your answer in the chat. Which one of the major topics do you find most interesting? Just for me to have an idea who is here. So the mental health, the substance use and risk behaviors, youth culture, digital media use, gaming, music, and sexual behaviors, or any other. Okay, so substance use, digital media, mental health, youth culture, mental health. Yeah. So what I see is really interesting. So that you also make the connection between these topics, and that's exactly what we also do. So that's really nice. Youth culture, substance use. Okay, great. Interesting. Okay, this is the an example of the European study that I referred to earlier, and I'll show you how we can use this to look also at the positive development, so life satisfaction. Just an example. What we see is that in 2017, girls experienced more psychological problems compared to 2009. So that's interesting. We saw a lower life satisfaction and a higher level of school stress. And especially the level of school stress is something that worried a lot of people in 2017 because it increased majorly. The question then is, okay, but how is that possible? What changed in this meantime, in between 2009 and 2017? So these are questions that you can also look at. And what we want you to learn when you're doing this master is that you understand relevant theories and state-of-the-art research on youth issues. And you can focus on one of the issues or more, if you like, depending on your preference, that you're most interested in. So you can say, okay, this I know for sure sexual behavior is my interest, and I want to know everything about that. Well, then there are options in the different courses, and we will get back to these courses a little bit later, to focus on that topic. Or you say, I'm not sure what topic has my interest, and so let me explore all different topics, and then you can work on different topics in the different courses. We also want you to critically think about academic research, because we want to contribute to the development of you being an academic professional. And one of the skills that you need is to be critical, to ask questions, to always kind of do not accept everything you read and you hear. The third one is we want you to be able to analyze social youth issues, so that if you read something and if you work at a certain organization and they have a specific youth issue that they want to be solved, that you know how to do that. And of course, by conducting academic research and also by using that, so making evidence-based decisions. And the last one is if you conduct academic research, it is more and more important nowadays to also be able to translate these findings, that research, into practice, either into, tools that enable non-researchers to understand the research findings. So develop fact sheets or other digital tools you can also develop. But you may also use these research findings to develop interventions. This is a Dutch, the PI at the Trimbos Institute, Marta, and she at some point shared a quote with me why she really likes working with youth studies students. In fact, she's working at the Trimbos Institute, and Michelle is also working there. And Michelle just told me that, well, nearly all of the people working there in certain areas are all youth studies students. So what Martha says is specific for youth study students is that they are all round. They can work in an interdisciplinary way, and they can conduct quantitative research as well as qualitative research. So that's why they really like youth study students. Okay, let's continue to the program, the specific program of our master. I divided it into 2 different tracks, and that, of course, come together in the end. There is a more theoretical track, so the courses that are more theoretical, and there is an applied track, so more practically based courses. And together, they contribute to you as being a youth professional. So let's see how we do that. This is the program, and I see Matthew's picture is still up there, so that's great. So just very briefly, because then I would like to ask one of my team to tell you a little bit more about this. So you start with an introduction course, Youth Studies and Interdisciplinary Approach, where you get to know the basics of different youth theories, developmental theories, and also knowledge about specific youth issues. That's in the first part. And then parallel to that course, you start thinking about, okay, how do I develop an evidence-based interventional policy in a systematic way? In period 2, you start writing your master thesis combined with the application of the systematic planning. So you get a certain case, you work on that, and you practice with, okay, if a municipality comes up to me and says, most of my youth is engaged in binge drinking, and it's a huge problem. And then you can apply all the different steps that are involved in systematic planning to that specific case, and you may develop your own intervention or policy. In period 3 and 4, you will continue working on your master thesis, and you will do an internship in an organization. Completely in the bottom, you see academic professionals. So there, you be prepared to be an academic professional. So you know how to write your CV. You know how to write a letter to an organization if you want to do an internship there. We help you with that. So perhaps Eliane, could you share your thoughts and experience with the Master Youth Studies, and specifically the first part, because now you just started period 2, actually. 3.
Yes, I just started period 3. Yes. I think in the first period, I was kind of overwhelmed by the new way of working. Yeah, in comparison with your bachelor. Your bachelor, you have more like, you have to do this, and then you discuss everything during your tutorial group or your lecture. And here it's more, yeah, you have to do it yourself and talk with your fellow students. And if you then have questions, then you can ask the teacher. So that's a major difference. Furthermore, yeah, in youth studies and disciplinary approach, it really is about youth and the development of youth. I experienced some overlap with my bachelor because I just saw a question about the ISS bachelor and youth studies minor. So you have some overlap, but you also elaborate on the knowledge you have. So I think it's really nice if you already have that background. And what's really different than from the bachelor for me was the intervention policies. And I really like that those are two courses. Like in the first course, like intervention policy 1, you'll learn a lot about how to systematically plan an intervention or policy. And it's really theoretical. So sometimes it's a bit tough to read everything and gain all the knowledge. But then in period 2, you put it into practice. So you really make your own intervention. So you apply it. So it makes more sense. So I really like that those are two courses. And yeah, your thesis is just your thesis, I guess. But if you're in your third year of your bachelor, I think most of you are already or just started with your thesis. So it kind of is the same process, I think, as in the bachelor. Only here you start already in period 2 with your introduction. And yeah, and I now just started my internship, so I can't really share experience about that. But for now, it's I'm enjoying it. So
Okay, great. Thank you, Eliane. Matthew, can I ask you to just reflect upon your time in the Netherlands? Because Matthew is from Canada and he's now back in Canada. So it's really great to have you here. I can't hear you, Matthew. Oh, yeah, then you have to go to settings and change the mic. That's what I did.
Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
yeah, we can. I can.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. So the master's for me was honestly absolutely amazing. I just graduated in September that just passed. And so I spent the whole year there. I'm not European or Dutch. So however, it kind of still worked out really well for me, despite, not ever really studying abroad or anything. The program itself was actually very nicely divided. And there's just enough guidance along the way where you never really feel completely lost, but you still have that independence that allows you to kind of grow as an academic. So as I said before, the first period is mostly the theoretical work, so learning about just different aspects of youth and culture, societal issues, and just discussing it with your small groups, your classmates, your professors. When you start your thesis, so the thesis, how it works, actually, I really liked how it was done because it started kind of already in the beginning. You kind of get your advisor, you kind of think about what you want to do, and you kind of write your introduction until the new year. So the second period, I believe, you start to formulate your ideas and then look at the data and the research. And then your internship also starts as well, and that can either go hand in hand with your thesis or you just kind of, it works separately. So even as an international during COVID, you guys had the curfew as well. Fun times. I was still able to get an internship and was still able to progress. All the internationals in my program were able to do so. There were 6 of us, I believe. So that was really no problem for us at all. And it really, especially because of the master's, it's just broad enough where you can have an internship really in the most amazing places. Some people were researchers. One worked with a psychologist. I was at the University of Amsterdam, the Trimbos Institute, even government buildings. So there's honestly something for everyone here, and you're really able to pick the research you want and just go with it. There was people did theses on all kinds of things, from music and how music affects behavior. I did mine on the fear of missing out and how it affects academics, sexuality, stuff like that. So there was really something for everyone. I loved it. I mean, I'm trying to go back. So yeah. So if there's any internationals in the chat, or you want to ask me something specific, if you write in the chat, I can answer it. So, thanks.
Great, Matthew. Thanks a lot. Michelle, may I save your input for the for later? Yeah, fantastic. Okay, let's continue. We also would like to, because now I'm just here, and I'm really happy that Michelle and Eliana and Matthew and also Arwin in the background is also are here with us. But perhaps it's also nice for you to meet the different teachers as well.
Youth Studies at Utrecht University is an interdisciplinary one-year master's program. It offers a unique environment for inter- and transdisciplinary research and education. For example, how can we prevent problems such as social inequality, discrimination, or mental health problems? How can we strengthen what goes well among youth, their creativity, their resilience, and their talents? Our Masters provides a vibrant community in which students learn the skills necessary to answer such questions and translate research into actionable policy, and thereby build and empower youth for the future.
We know some youth issues, such as early alcohol use or excessive digital media use, require intervention. Obviously, if you intervene in these risky behaviors, you want this to be effective. However, youth workers, policymakers, and other professionals really do their best, yet in practice, evidence-based interventions are often not used. We teach you how to develop or select interventions in a scientifically grounded way. So join us!
I lead the Health Behavior in School-Aged Children study, a study among adolescents in over 50 countries. We have answered many questions with this study. For instance, if adolescents use more cannabis when they grow up in countries that have legalized cannabis use. But there are many more questions that we can answer with this study. And if you join us as a student, you can help us answering these questions.
We believe that if we truly want to understand young people's development, we need to take an interdisciplinary approach. Let's take the example of happiness. What makes us happy? Is it really true that young people nowadays are less happy compared to youth a decade ago? And if so, could this be due to increased schoolwork pressure and social media use? To answer these questions properly, we need insights and theories from sociology, psychology, public health, neuroscience, and many other fields. How to integrate these all? That's what you learn in our master program.
Welcome back again. Let me get my slides up here. Okay, let's continue then. I hope you have enjoyed the video. And so these were the colleagues and the different teachers that you will meet if you will decide to do this master. Okay, this is a very important question. The job market. What are the possibilities for me to do? At what type of organizations will I be working? Well, just in short, I can say that actually all organizations that are doing some work in the field of youth, you may end up working. So you can make a distinction between different staff positions, policy positions, and research positions at your research institute. You may think about the Trimbos Institute is also considered as a research institute, of course, but you may also, the staff position is also something you can do at the Trimbos Institute. So working on the development of interventions and the implementation of that. But the National Youth Institute is also something you may be working. But also many people will end up working at municipalities, for example, or at other national organizations where you either work on the development of policy around youth, or you collaborate from the perspective of the municipality with the different schools or other different youth professionals in that specific community. So it's a variety of options. What most of you will be doing, and this is information that we collected from the different organizations where youth study students end up working. What they indicate is that for most of the tasks that you will be able to collect information, keep overview, and also manage projects. Because our students are taught to look at issues from an interdisciplinary perspective, they also tend to be the ones that are able to collaborate with different people with different perspectives, because that's what we taught you to do. And that's also recognized by the different organizations. So collaboration and communication with a variety of stakeholders. That's something you maybe end up doing, including the target group, politicians, schools, municipalities. For example, Stichting Alexander is an organization in Amsterdam that does a lot of participatory action research. So they collaborate with youth in conducting research a lot. So not just asking them questions through questionnaires, but really talking to these adolescents and find out what they feel about things and how they experience it. And one of the things that you maybe end up doing is or it's not it can be, of course, a combination, is the translation of knowledge into interventions, policies, or other tools. But this is what you will be able to do, and you can do this in different organizations. Here are some examples. You may think about addiction care centers, BMC consultancy. They're doing also a lot of work in municipalities on youth issues. A Trimbos Institute. If you're interested in sexual behaviors, Rutgers is one of the most obvious ones to do your internship or to work. The GGD also. They are the ones who implement also a variety of interventions in schools, and you may work on that. So there are many different options. Here are some percentages. The latest data is from the 2015-16 cohort, and about a quarter of our students will work in a policy position. Will have a policy position at the national or local government. You may also work at the youth care institution, but also many of you end up, or some of you will end up as researchers at the university or the University of Applied Science. I know some of our students work there right now. Advisory work, consultancy. Let's see. Well, I think that's the biggest part of it. What is important here is that looking back to the cohort of 2018 and 19, all of the alumni found a job. So that's good to know. But perhaps, Michelle, you can also share your experience in your cohort. At Utrecht University, they see that 75% of the students, of the alumni, find a job in the field of the program. So that's a lot. And 70% find a job at an academic level. And that's exactly what we also see for our youth studies alumni. So 3/4 of them end up working in the field that is related to the Master Youth Studies. Okay, so I already saw some questions about the admission. And let's take a quick look. Well, if you have a bachelor degree in one of the social sciences, you can automatically start our master. We do look, if you have any other bachelor, we do look at the level of knowledge about youth issues and the level of experience and knowledge about methods and statistics. So you need to have at least you have to have the knowledge about multi-level statistics, and you should be able to have some work already done or followed some courses on youth issues. If you have another bachelor degree, but with a similar orientation, you may also join our master. But then we're even looking better to the two different criteria. So for the multi-level experience in statistics and the level of knowledge about youth issues. If you have done a different study, or an HBO study, for example, you may consider first doing the pre-master's program. And when you do the pre-master's program, you are automatically admitted to the master's program of youth studies. And in fact, at 5:30, there is the information talk about the pre-master of youth studies following this one. So if you want to join us, I would recommend you to do so. It would be great to see all of you in September. The deadline is the 1st of April, and you can use the link www.uu.nl/masters, and you can find our master there. And if you have any questions, you can always ask. You can always ask them by emailing me, but there is also an email address at the admissions site that you can contact. So what is good to know, if you are interested in a pre-master, for example, and want to start the Master Youth Studies in 2023, it's good to know that there will be changes. So we will still focus on youth issues and the different perspectives and the policies and interventions and the combination between research and practice, because these are really the characteristics of our master. But we will do so in a more larger version. So we will really have courses from also provided from other master studies, so from geosciences, for example. So it will be a larger interdisciplinary perspective. But if you're here and if you're interested to start a master in September, you will not know anything about that. Let's take a look. So if you have any questions, you can ask them, of course, right now. But I can imagine that if you have heard different talks today, that you may have some questions coming up later. Therefore, we have an informal meet and greet on the 14th of March from 4 to 5. It's also going to be online. One of my colleague teachers will probably be there. There will also be youth studies there. And it's a very informal meeting. So if you have any remaining questions, feel free to attend that meeting, and you can do so by signing in and sending an email to masteryouthstudies@uu.nl. Michelle, let me see if it is there. No. Michelle, may I ask you now already to share your experience with us?
Yeah, thank you, Ina. I finished the master in 2019, I guess. And I now work as a researcher at the Trimbos Institute, where I do mostly research on mental health and alcohol and drug use among students in higher education. And in my work, I had the courses Intervention Policy 1 and 2, and I every day I used that courses in my work. So the research, but also the advice from the teachers is very helpful, and that's why I'm still here and helping Ina with this master program talk. And I saw some questions about internships and topics and going abroad, but I think I'm not the person, because I also did my internship at the Trimbos Institute, so that was in Utrecht in the Netherlands. So maybe Matthew can give more answers about that, but I don't know, Ina, if that's a good idea.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can share something about what, like, the internship in general, or.
Yeah, I saw a lot of questions about doing your internship abroad, but you did it in?
Oh, yeah. So unfortunately, during my year, because of COVID, a lot of the internships that were abroad weren't available. But there were the university, or the program in general, has some connections with others from different countries that do internships abroad. I remember there was one in Bhutan. There was one, I forgot where in Africa. I can't remember if it was or South Africa or Kenya. I'm trying to remember, but there aren't just different. There also are inner European ones as well. But I can't remember anything specifically. But there are internships available.
Yeah.
You're also, I mean, I'm pretty sure you can also find your own internship as well, and if it matches with the needs of the study, then that should be okay too.
In my year, there were 2 students that did their internship at Curaçao, and then I don't know the exact internship and thesis topics, but I saw the pictures. So and there were a few questions about if you did the interdisciplinary social science bachelor. I did it myself, and I find it really great to have another year to read critical the researches and doing the combination on the topic. So the combination with mental health and substance use, and combine the topics for in my case, I did a lot of research about students. So for me, I have no regret following this master.
That's good, Michelle. Thanks. Hey, and could you just briefly also say something about, how it is among students also, and the atmosphere?
Yeah, what I really like, that is a really small group. I know the teachers want a bigger group, like 100 students maybe, but it is really helpful to connect with the other students. They know what you're up to. Then they have the same workload. I also saw a question about workload. It will be a master, so it's more difficult than your bachelor, but you have each other, and you can learn from each other, ask questions, do you find statistics difficult? There's always one or two that really find that the best thing, so they can help you with your statistics. And what I really liked was the interaction with the teachers, because they really get to know you during the courses, and the person that will help you with your thesis is sometimes also the same for your internship. So you really they know what you're up to, and if there's something that you find difficult, or maybe some personal things, you can always contact them, talk to them, and they always have time for you. So that's what I really liked, and that's why I still have contact with Ina and the community manager Valerie. So I'm not going to say that you will get friends with them, but maybe some of a neighbor or something.
Yeah. Well, nice comparison, Michelle. Hey, but thanks, guys, for your contribution. Let's see what I have left. Well, this is you can send questions to the email address masteryouthstudies@uu.nl. You can also send me personal emails if you like. If you have questions about admission or any other administrative things, please contact the student information point, because they know all of these things much better than I do. There you are, Michelle. And then all I have to say is please join us. And if you have any question, always feel free to contact me at any time, whether that is today or later this year. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you can make the right decision